Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the rig in a new location, in a new house, and as you can see from behind me, we are still working on trying to make it look nice and pretty, but we will get there at some point. Today I wanted to talk about something that I've actually neglected talking about, being a massive rally fan. We had the release of WRC Generations end of last year, and I've not yet spoken on my opinion on the game, so I thought we'd jump into a couple of stages and I'd talk you through what I actually think of the last Kyloton WRC game. So let's jump into the game and I'll give you some thoughts. So here we are in WRC Generations. We're going to do, to start off, something that this game does absolutely fantastically and brand new. So it's going to be the brand new Sweden stages and the brand new hybrid Rally 1 cars. So we're going to take Sebastian Loeb's Ford Puma around the tough stage of Savar in Switzerland. So let's jump into it. So new this year we have the absolutely wonderful Rally 1 hybrid cars in WRC Generations. These are the rally cars that were brought into the WRC last year and add a small amount of hybrid boost to your rally car, which you can decide what deployment you like before the stage, and then throughout the stage you'll get a little bit of energy and a little bit of boost coming out of your hairpins and slower corners sometimes, and maybe on the longer straights. But I'll tell you what, these make WRC Generations incredibly fun. These cars are absolutely wonderful to drive, and it's definitely one of the things that WRC Generations just about managed to get right. Along with this combination of the new Rally 1 cars paired with these Swedish stages, makes you think that WRC Generations is probably one of the better rally games out there. Now, obviously, we'll get on to its failings, but let's be nice for now and give credit where credit is due. These cars are an absolute blast to drive, even with the slight issues in the handling model. They've got a really nice weight to them. You really feel like you can transfer the weight correctly, especially through all this changing terrain that we've got in Switzerland. And that extra little hybrid boost is something you've certainly got to think about in these cars. Way too wide there, because it can sort of deploy. You don't have control over the deploy; it just will deploy when it's nice and full, and that can sometimes be coming out of a hairpin, which is not exactly where you want as you're at full lock or on the handbrake. But these Swedish stages have such a great mix of that tight sort of forest stage that you saw just now into this incredibly high speed stuff which is on, snow and ice, which it just feels so treacherous, but at the same time you can feel the car moving on top of the surface through the force feedback, and you know what corrections you have to make to keep yourself on the straight and narrow. There's a lot of wheel movement going on. But yeah, these cars are... I was excited for these cars to come into the game, obviously because you spend a season of WRC watching these cars, and can't wait to drive them for yourself as we go for a big old spin. Yep, yes it does. Come on, let's go the other way. As my ghost goes past me. One of the issues I do have with the Swedish stages is that the snowbanks really don't work like they should do. In the real rallies, the drivers can use the snowbanks to slow themselves down a little bit if they're going a little bit too fast, just to provide an extra bit of resistance. In WRC Generations, they kind of just work as walls, which is a little bit disappointing because these stages are just an absolute joy to drive. These big sweeping corners are so much fun when you get the balance on the throttle right with the jumps. It's like Finland on ice, to be honest, these new stages. The old stages for Sweden on the old WRC games were looking so sad and worn out, but these are just magnificent. And Matt paired with these new Rally 1 cars, this is a combination that I actually keep coming back to. And I really didn't like the WRC cars in WRC 10. I would always, do a WRC 2 or a junior car, but this has gotten me back into the top tier of rallying on the Kyloton games. And I think, this is clearly where all the work went into, and this part alone is a nice send-off to the work that Kyloton have done on the WRC games over the years. We'll get on next to what went wrong, but those are a great rallying experience. If you are a rally fan and you've got this game, pair the Rally 1 cars with the Sweden stages. They are an absolute blast. Now, let's get on to the negatives. New stage, new car coming out. So, for the next little bit that may not be as nice to WRC Generations, I thought we'd go to a returning stage this year, which is Mexico, one of the most awesome sort of stages that we saw last in probably WRC 8, I think. In Chris Ingram's WRC 2 Skoda, because he seems like a nice guy and I like the Skoda. So let's talk about, firstly, how many stages we have in WRC Generations. Kyloton basically brought back all of the stages that they'd previously had in WRC games, barring a few. I think we're missing a handful, but there is an enormous amount of stages, including this returning one. When I say stages, I mean locations with stages in them. But yeah, one returning location that I'm actually quite happy to see is Rally Mexico. These stages are really, really fun. And again, there is one thing that KT and Kyloton have done great with these WRC games over the years that I actually think does better than something like Dirt Rally 2, is the stage design. The variety in the stage and the stage design is fantastic. I love how, I don't want to use the word dynamic, but it seems like the right word to use, the stages are. How much difference there is in it, how tight some of the stages get, and of course they, the thing that Dirt Rally 2 was lacking was tarmac physics, and WRC have had a lot of tarmac stages and their tarmac physics have always been fantastic. Oh, I thought we were going to flip the car there. But let's talk about what is maybe not the best part of WRC Generations. Firstly, the force feedback. I'm going to start with the force feedback. The force feedback took me maybe 2 weeks to dial in. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not on one of the newer direct drive wheels, and I'm not on a newer Logitech wheel. I'm on an old Fanatec CSW 2.5. Great wheelbase, but definitely not the newest. This took me so long to dial in the force feedback, and it still just doesn't feel right. Which is unfortunate, because I genuinely thought that WRC 10, once you got it dialed in, had good force feedback. I knew what the car was doing, and don't get me wrong, I still sort of know what the car is doing, but there's just so many weird dead areas and bits that I just don't understand in this game as we're going to hit that bridge. Oh my god, we didn't. He says we go straight into the fence. Secondly, WRC Generations. Now, if you're on Reddit or YouTube or anywhere where people are talking about this game, or if you saw Jimmy Broadbent's video, one thing that has been a major issue with this game is the throttle. It just doesn't seem to work properly. And there was definitely an issue of this in WRC 10, but it just seems so much worse in WRC Generations. Now they've implemented, I think, two patches to try and fix this sort of throttle bug, but it just... Do you know what? It's better if we just show you. Okay, so here we are, foot on the brake in first gear. So I'm going to take my foot off the brake completely and apply about 20% of throttle. Now, you would think, no clutch required, 20% of throttle, the car would start to maybe roll a little bit. Nothing. Even if you don't look at it in terms of throttle, 3,000 RPM, nothing. And there you go. This auto clutch they seem to have means that I can almost put in 50% throttle and get nothing back from it. Look at that. 3,500 RPM, and then finally the car decides to slowly, but I'm at 50% throttle now, and then full throttle. Now, obviously I've not explained that in the best way possible, but what it means in reality when you're driving the car is it's very, very hard to modulate the throttle. So for example, through these next couple of corners, have a look at my throttle inputs. What you're going to see is me almost pumping the throttle on, off, because you can't modulate the throttle like you would be able to. So to almost get that, to almost simulate that, I have to like on, off the throttle to try and get some modulation. You know, sometimes you want to be at 50% throttle, sometimes you want to be at... You don't want to always be on and off, because that's, you can get wheel spin and it's just not going to work. So you'll see, I mean, the way that I deal with it is by doing this sort of like on-off throttle and pumping the throttle, which is not exactly the most efficient way to drive a rally car. Another issue about that comes when you're going through something like a hairpin. You pull the handbrake, you go around the hairpin. When your car is at full lock, you do not want to be giving it all the beans, because you know what's going to happen? Your wheels are going to spin and you are going to spin out. So what happens when you do a go around a hairpin in WRC Generations? Your wheels spin and you spin out. Now the sad thing about all of this is that, one, this was the swan song for KT Racing and their WRC series that they've had for quite a long time. Obviously it's going to EA now after this game, and this is the last game they had to make a chance. And I've been a big defender of the WRC games over, well, it really started with 10 when I started making videos about it, but I love these games, and I think when they work so incredibly well, and it's just so sad to see that opportunity to make one final hurrah just kind of squandered. It just really is a shame. So if you enjoyed this video, why not consider subscribing to the channel? We are almost at 500 subscribers, which I said I wanted to hit by last year, but anyway. If you got anything out of this, please consider subscribing, leaving us a like, or following me on any other of my socials, which will be down in the description below. Content is coming thick and fast, so stay tuned if you find my ramblings entertaining. But that'll do it for this video. I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.